A new report has revealed that Montreal will be targeting a defenseman for one of their next trades. A surprise report coming out that we have to dive into and how that could shape up the Habs' future. Plus, training camp continues to get going, and we have some crazy highlights, including a wild pass from Joshua Roy leading to a Josh Anderson goal, and an unbelievable play by Filip Mesar as he gets a beauty as well. That plus a little note on Juraj Slafkovsky's killer confidence and what his teammates have to say about him, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. But guys, as we've done a lot recently, we're in danger of not hitting that 15,000 goal. And I know it's crazy. We didn't expect to hit it, but if you guys want to help us hit 15,000 subscribers before the start of the season, we got a couple of weeks to go. If you want to help us, hit that subscribe button down below. Half of you watching this video, that's probably 4,000 or 5,000 of you haven't done it. If we just get a few of you to click that button, we'd really, really appreciate it. Jesse, we got to start with Slaf. Oh, it's his killer confidence. That's one of my favorite sayings on this channel. We've seen it with Xhekaj. We've seen it with a lot of people, but now it's turning into Slaf as he, first and foremost, has proven himself to be an absolute beast so far. We're just going to play that clip from the last game here as he just speeds by Arber Xhekaj. This was from yesterday, not from today, but that unbelievable goal. And it's not just that, Jesse. Juraj actually had something to say himself about the situation, and I'm going to show that to you guys now. As we bring it up, he says, I feel way more confident than I felt last year. I'm not starting where I started last year. I'm starting way higher, and I want to keep building more. Some big words from Juraj, and it wasn't just him. There's an article that we'll link down below from Eric Engels that goes a bit more in depth into this. But Jesse, how you feeling about Slaf? Like, we saw it, he backed it up on the ice, but he's also backing it up verbally. Like, the confidence is beaming from this guy, and as you can see in the article, a lot of his teammates are seeing that same thing.
He's a fan favorite, right? But for him to kind of start to become one of the best players on this team, he needed to start off really strong, and that's exactly what he's doing, right? Like, Slafzilla, he's been in the lab, to kind of get that right balance between size and speed, and it looks like he found it. Eric Engels calling him, in his most recent article, a dinosaur among men. I can't agree. Beautiful finish there, but we have to say, shout out to Caufield. How nice was that pass, boys? Yeah. Like, that was absolutely unreal. Threading the needle, showing his playmaking right there. Absolutely. But, the thing about Slaf is that he's playing fast. He's playing strong all over the ice. And Nick Suzuki had some big praise for him. He's saying that basically Slafzilla right now can outmuscle basically anybody on the ice right now. So really important for this team to get to it strong. This is the difference between this team last year and now is we have a first line going into us. We're getting the chemistry going right away by playing them. A second line as well, if you can kind of imagine it. So already we're seeing some big changes from us.
Yeah, it's unreal. And like, again, as even Eric Engels and many people said yesterday, Slaf was the best player in his scrimmage. Like, he just looked so confident. Suzuki said, like, last year, Slaf sometimes didn't know where other players were going to be on the ice. Now that's just not a thing. Slaf is like, well, I'm already way better than where I started last year. Like, I'm ready to go. He's looking amazing. He's looking huge. He's lost a bit of weight, yet is apparently still massive, as Friedman said on 32 Thoughts. There's so many good things we could talk about with Juraj Slafkovsky, but leave us your thoughts down below on Slaf so that we play it one more time, because we absolutely love this. The dinosaur amongst men. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable to watch, Jesse. I can't wait to see how this whole contract plays out. We got this guy for a long time, but we'll move in to our next topic, and let's get into training camp today. And there's some great stuff to see from today as well, and we got a few clips to show you. And well, there's a lot of great stories coming out of this training camp today, and a lot of people were actually focusing on Josh Anderson, so why not start there? I mean, this highlight's actually equally a Joshua Roy highlight with that insane pass while being double teamed to a moving Anderson, but that filthy little backhand there from Josh Anderson teaming up with Joshua Roy, and Joshua Roy also having another nice little they did penalty shot drills and he went in. He got a nice little 5-hole goal. Maybe didn't get all of it, but still scored on the goal. Jesse, this is an interesting pairing. We've seen Roy and Anderson. It seems like they might start the year together with Dvorak there between them. That's what we've seen so far. I kind of don't mind this chemistry if Roy can kind of get Anderson going. Maybe he's the solution. I don't know. But I mean, look, I know it's a small sample, but I definitely like what I've seen from them.
It can't hurt. And as you know, like, we just love Joshua Roy's game, right? And again, that pass on a string, basically beating 3 sticks to get it there. Anderson, though, taking it to the net and finish on the backhand. Of course, these are just scrimmages, but these are the right things to kind of start the season off on time. These little things that can maybe help with Josh Anderson's confidence, because, like, we know it's there. He's doing what he does best, taking it to the net, just having that solid backhand finish. I think for a lot of of us Habs fans, we just want to see the man succeed.
I mean, if he can get 15, 20 goals as a third liner, I'm cool with it, right? Like, especially if he can be a physical presence at the same time. So, really interesting. Joshua Wah's IQ is off the charts. That's the one thing I've seen most people saying after these scrimmages today, and I can't help but agree. Like, he has looked like a brilliant hockey player, and that's what we saw last year, too. So, really excited to see that continue. But there's a few more things I wanted to show. Some guys that are not going to crack the NHL roster, but very good Laval guys. And Brandon Gignac, we saw him a lot last year. My goodness, that's former power play merchant Brandon Gignac, who played power play for the Habs for a little bit, but he was setting up William Trudeau, who's another young defenseman. I feel like we don't really talk about the fact Trudeau's only, 21 or 22. I'm just going to play this again. Amazing board work there to get it to Trudeau. So that's just one thing I wanted to highlight, but the big thing, Jesse, was we finally saw a goal from Filip Mesar. Now, he has arguably the most to prove out of, well, maybe not the most, but he has a ton to prove compared to a lot of other prospects, compared to where he was drafted, compared to his somewhat lackluster year last year. Seeing him get on the board, especially with such a nice goal, is really encouraging, because you got to think for him, like, he needs to at least start strong in Laval this year if he really wants to catch the coach's eyes. But I think he's done a good job in today's training camp for sure.
And this is the type of goal that we really expect from a first-round pick such as himself. But this was actually quite an impressive play, because he actually wins a puck battle to first kind of get this puck and start in the first place. But as he's coming with speed, make himself a great option as that center, position there. But what speed he shows, like, he burns the defender on that one, right? Going outside, taking it in. This is exactly what we want to see, leaning in, that this is a skilled player. We know he's a little bit smaller, so what does he need to use? Of course, it's his speed, right? And that skill to really translate, to make his mark at the NHL level, So these are some small things in scrimmages, but very big for Mesar and his development. So we just want to see this continue from him, because we know we have prospects sometimes, that we've been really high on in the past, and then maybe their game goes down. But it's true for the opposite to be the case. And sometimes we get a little bit down on a prospect, and they end up just playing a lot better over the course of their development. So I'm not ruling out this being the case for Mesar. We still need to be patient with it.
Yeah, like, it's interesting, right? Because he was supposed to play top 6 in Laval, and then he went back to the OHL, and he didn't have a fantastic year, but those flashes of skill have been there since the start. It's just a matter of whether he can put it together. Seems to have decent foot speed. It's just a matter if he can put the puck in the back of the net, or at least set up some other people. So what do you think about all these guys? What was your favorite of those highlights? I think mine was definitely that Wah pass to Anderson. Hopefully we see that a lot during the regular season, but we'd love to hear from you down below as we move into the final topic, Jesse. This kind of caught me off guard. Now, there was an article from rg.org this morning, which has turned into a pretty interesting website with a lot of seemingly reliable sources. So I wanted to get into this because, it just caught me off guard. And I think it's going to catch a lot of you guys off guard, too. We're just going to jump in here. The report is the Canadiens are looking to upgrade. That's not necessarily a shock to hear that the Habs want to get better. Every team wants to get better. But they don't want to make a lateral move. They're ready to send off what seems like some of their prospects and maybe some guys like David Savard in order to bring in someone even better. And if you dive into the article, they said the Canadiens have reportedly informed their colleagues, this article's linked down below, by the way, that they're not looking for lateral deals and will be looking to make clear upgrades at position of need, which again signals to me, Jesse, we have a lot of prospects, we have a lot of picks, some of them are going to be on the move. But it was this next section that maybe scratched my head maybe the most until I thought about it a little bit. The same source told RG.org that Montreal will have difficulty evaluating its next move at the defensive position with David Savard's contract coming to an end. A lot of unknowns, some well-earned hope, but very little concrete results to ensure such a vital position is covered moving forward, as they cite the fact that so many of their young guys, even like Mailloux, Reinbach, or Barron, they're not quite ready for that full-time top 4 role on a competitive team. What are your thoughts on this? Because to me, like, at first I read it, I was like, defense. That's kind of the last position I was thinking of a trade for. But when you realize, like, Savard's contract's ending, and if these guys don't turn into, like, legit kind of longer-term top 4 guys within the next year or two, they might actually have to make a move for a higher-end defense.
It's a good point. This is an interesting report that Kent's really doing his due diligence on the upgrades, right? He got the memo on it. In fact, he wrote the memo. He's looking for more scoring. And they also, it does make sense when you kind of break it down that 2 out of our 8 defensemen that we have in the mix for the Habs right now are vets. And only 1 out of those 8 is a right-handed defenseman. Savard, Matheson being the other one being a left-handed. Of course, Guhle being able to play up the lineup is helping, but that's not even ideal for his development. So even if one guy pops off, and is ready for top 4 minutes, I would say in like Reinbacher, Mailloux, Engstrom, etc., it's like you still definitely have another spot just for a natural right-handed defenseman there, which does beg the question of adding a vet on defense on the right-handed side. Now, I know we have that in Savard, and almost might be a strong case to maybe keep him. In fact, I know a lot, like, people are saying that maybe his trade value isn't necessarily worth what you're getting back and all sort of those intangibles. But at the same time, Kent's looking at all options at this point in time, and I definitely think rightfully so.
Yeah, like, and if Savard, like, even if they don't trade him at deadline, if he wants to, he can just walk after the season. You just don't know. There's uncertainty. Maybe there's more talks internally about whether he'll stay or not, but if he's gone, there is a pretty glaring hole. And I know in theory, it's okay, just play Guhle on the right side, and you play Barron and Mailloux, or maybe you just play Reinbach or Mailloux, and that's your three down the right side. Guhle, Reinbach, or Mailloux. Okay, cool. But, like, it often doesn't work out quite like that, and especially when we're talking about clear upgrades, Jesse, and we're looking at these guys that are already bona fide top 4 guys. It's like Guhle and Matheson. Like, Savard's not even a top 4 guy, and I love Xhekaj, but he's not a long-term top 4 guy yet, right? Like, and a lot of the young guys, we haven't seen it yet. So once the season's over, like, are we talking now, like, because getting a top 4 defenseman, whether it's left or right-hand shot, is not easy to just go and get from another team, but I think people might be surprised. This has made me think a lot that, you know, Montreal could legitimately go after a high-end talent, maybe on a team that's kind of falling out of their championship window. I don't know any names. I know we talked about Chris Letang this summer, but look, at this point, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's maybe even past that age that we really want to consider, but you're talking maybe a 28 to 32-year-old player on like a reasonable deal that can play top 4 minutes for a few years. I don't think it's crazy.
The reason that the Montreal Canadiens led in so many goals over the last couple of seasons, is definitely because of having such a young defensive core. And that's why they're putting such an emphasis on team defense at camp. Just knowing that a lot of our young guys on D obviously need that help so much. So there is a solid point. You know, I think Reinbacher could be a guy that kind of comes in like Guhle, that just plays way above their age, that shows maturity. So this season, the jury's still out, right? We have a lot of really young players, but there is something you said, especially with defense, of not just all having all young guys all the way. I think Hudson's going to be a lock for that top 4 in the very near future. But on the right-hand side, you know, we're definitely going to be needing some help there as well. So really kind of finding that balance right now. I think they're doing a great job of making space for those young guys while still having a couple vets. But as you go into a little bit more win now sort of mode, you definitely want to, maybe with all the picks, all the prospects that we have, and even, dare I say, amazing young defensive prospects, because that might be where that trade's coming from, is taking a young guy like a Barron, like a Struble, and maybe using that as an upgrade at that position, get a little bit more of a vet. This is all going to be part of the process as this Montreal Canadiens team looks to be more competitive this season.
We got rid of Harris, and we got a pretty good return on that. And I really hope Harris has a great season in Columbus. I got to say, I really like Harris as a player and as a person. But there's a lot of stuff to think about, guys. Let us know down below. Crazy to say we're thinking about the Habs in a win now mode. But the biggest thing, I think, to me, Jesse, is the uncertainty. This year we'll answer a lot of questions, whether it's in Laval or with Montreal. But come next year, there is a world where Montreal might have to just go after a higher-end defensive talent. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. Let us know your thoughts on all this stuff down below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, help us reach 15K, all that good stuff. We'd really, really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.